Hi, I'm Jackie with Amplify Desmos Math. And as a former math teacher, something that I experienced and heard a lot as a pain point for teachers was students lacking a number sense. So I'm going to be sharing a couple strategies that you can implement in your classroom today that will help foster a number sense within your students. Now, the first thing, thinking about our primary students, is really thinking about how to make numbers in a concrete representation and then connecting that to more abstract representation. So thinking about number frames where students are able to visualize how much the number takes up in a number frame, like a 10 frame or a 5 frame, and then maybe translating that to where a number falls on a number line, really having the ability to visualize where a number falls between 0 and 10 or 0 and 100 or 10 and 20 really will help students have that number sense that will help them think flexibly about numbers. Another thing that can be really helpful is implementing some routines. Now, the first routine I'm going to talk about, number talks, is something I have talked about before and something that you will see talked about probably over and over, because a number talk is a great strategy that will start that conversation for students to see that we can think flexibly about numbers. Now, for a number talk, maybe you have an equation up and then you have students sharing, or an expression up and you have students sharing how they can determine the answer to that expression. Maybe they're thinking about breaking down one of the numbers. Maybe they're thinking about it in a way that no other student in your class is thinking about it. But what they're able to see is that there's not just one way to look at a problem. There's not just one way to look at an expression. And there's not just one way to solve an expression. There's multiple strategies, and that can really help them think flexibly to maybe develop that deeper number sense that can help them be more fluent when they are solving math problems. Now, another strategy is thinking about subitizing, how students can just visualize a set of images and count them without having to individually count each object. Now, another great strategy for this, another routine that we have, is a how many do you see routine, where you flash an image for a few seconds and then ask students, how many did you see? But then you take it further by saying, how did you see them? So maybe it's an image of 4 dots and students say, I saw 2 grouped at the top and 2 grouped at the bottom, and I was able to say that it was 4 without counting every single one. And maybe you still do have students counting every single one, but then they hear from other students in their classroom that say, wait, I thought about it as 2 columns of 2, and that was how I saw 4. So different strategies that start as those routines that students can get familiar with, and then you can add more complexity to either the expressions in a number talk or to the visuals that they're seeing within those couple of seconds, and then asking them, how did you see that number represented? And then another way that really can help foster a sense of number sense is composing and decomposing numbers. Thinking about breaking apart numbers. Maybe you talk about number bonds in your classroom, but if, say, I have the number 17, maybe I'm thinking of it as 10 plus 7, or a 10 rod and 7 ones. Maybe a student thinks about it 9 plus 8. And maybe someone else thinks about it 5 plus 5 plus 7. So there's a lot of different ways thinking about composing and decomposing a number. And that is something that will help students really be able to see numbers as something that can be adjusted or manipulated, and will help them better foster that sense of number sense, that they can become more fluent, more automatic, and really become more flexible with how they think about numbers and solving problems. And the last thing that you can implement literally the second this video ends is adding more opportunities for estimation in your classroom. Before you solve a problem, you can have students say, hey, what would be a good estimate for this? Just based on what we know in the word problem, based on what we know about the numbers, based on what we know about the size of the numbers that we're talking about, and we estimate. And then when we get our final answer, we can say, hey, was it close to our estimate? What was off? Why was it off? Was this a reasonable answer? And really having students estimate all the time to be able to say, let's just think about the numbers. We're not going to put anything on paper. We're not going to try and write anything down. We're just going to think about the numbers. And that mental math strategy really does help build that number sense. So hopefully you're able to implement some of these strategies, whether it's thinking about how to concretely represent numbers, more abstractly represent numbers, maybe in a number line, maybe thinking about some routines that you can implement, like a number talk or how many do you see routine. Maybe it's thinking about more opportunities for students to compose and decompose numbers, or just really adding in more opportunities to estimate. That can happen even outside of math class. Maybe you're thinking, we're going to be walking to specials soon. We have to get to the gym. Do you think it'll take us longer to get to the gym if we go this way or that way? And even just those opportunities to bring math estimation into your everyday teaching classroom will really help students be able to think about numbers in a flexible way. So I hope you have a wonderful time implementing some of these tips and strategies with your students. And I can't wait to hear about how maybe their number sense changes just a little bit because of it.